My name's Justin. I'm with Direct Colors. We wanted to take a moment to do a quick product demonstration for you on our metallic epoxies on concrete countertops. I'd like to introduce you to a couple of people. We have Brad Petz. He's going to do our application for us today. And off frame we have Shauna Turner, who's going to be fielding some of the questions. Please feel free to chime in, ask any questions you have about products, application, anything that you see going on throughout the course of this demonstration. What we're using today is our surface. This is an overlaid, concrete overlaid surface. We have a tinted backdrop, which is the canvas for the metallic epoxy. There are several colors you could do this base color in. And the base color helps pop different colorations on the metallics as you're applying them. Here, obviously, we're using a black base. We're going to use 3 colors of metallics for our application. We're going to use a green, a Kona metallic. We're going to use rum as a secondary, and then we're going to use on the top to add a third color to bring some dynamic to it. For the epoxy, we're using Direct Colors 100% solids epoxy. It's a 2-component sealer. It's an A and B. You'll mix this material together. We'll show you exactly how to apply it as we get going here. Brad, let's go ahead and show them how to mix the metallics into the cans or into the resins. The first thing Brad's going to do is open up the resins. We've taken basically this kit and divided it into smaller amounts to cover the square footage that we have. He's going to mix the metallics into the resin and stir them together and allow them to separate and float and disperse very well. Once he has these metallics mixed together, it really looks like a really pretty paint in the can. When you're mixing these, you're going to notice we're going to mix into a metal can. This is important because on these solvent-based epoxies, when you put the catalyst or the hardener with it, you get a chemical reaction that starts to generate heat, and it can be too much heat for a plastic container. So when you mix your A and B together on the epoxy, be sure that you're doing it in a metal can. So Brad has added the metallics into the part A, or the resin of the epoxy, and certainly stirring it in together. It's important to give this a little bit of time to disperse. If you don't, sometimes the pigments can get a little bit clumpy and it'll show up on your finished project as a clump. Metallics are something you've probably seen, or maybe you've seen on floors, different website searches, things like that. You can see these on floors. Direct Colors is kind of adopting that process for countertops. It makes a great way for new builds, precast concrete countertops, pour in place, or in the case today, if you wanted to do a remodel, you could use our overlay and you create the same look on an overlaid Formica. Okay, we're going to give that just a few seconds. As that's dispersing, he's going to hit it again and stir it, and then we'll add the hardener. This is what causes this material to set. It's important once you add the hardener to the resin that you start a timer. You want to be aware of how much time you're spending with this because there is a pot life. Once the hardener is included, the sealer is immediately starting to do its chemical reaction, which is heading towards a cure. You've got about 20 to 30 minutes. You want to have this applied, distributed, and back rolled within that 20 to 30 minutes. If you get outside that, if you start touching the sealer, there's a chance that it will not settle back out and it could leave imperfections in your finish. Okay, Brad, if you want to go ahead and Okay, so the hardener is in. He's going to give that a pretty good stir. We have good how-to instructions that come along with the products. We do suggest you take close attention to those, the time frames and the mixing instructions. You really do want to get the hardener and the resin mixed together well. If it's not mixed together well, you could have a little bit of a foul, so it's not a big deal. It's just a question of making sure you stir it thoroughly. We're doing the two colors here, which you're going to see as he distributes this. He's going to put a ribbon of material in each color down our faux countertop here, and then he'll move into using a squeegee to distribute it, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. This is a great way to make a nice dynamic look on a countertop. Like I said, either a brand new countertop, or certainly if you wanted to do some remodel, we've got great products to remodel Formicas or existing countertops that you just want to update and do something new with. This is a great way to create a really interesting, almost a conversation piece. You ready? Okay. All right, Brad's going to start applying the metallic. Incidentally, Brad, before you get started, I'm going to chime in on something here. Pardon me, folks, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this. Before you start applying your epoxy, really important to make sure you have a level surface. You might have already kind of thought that, but it is important, because if you're unlevel, your epoxy will float and drift, and you'll have a less depth and a deeper epoxy on one side. It won't look right. It'll be a problem you'll have to go back and fix. So make sure you have a good level surface before you apply your epoxy. You can apply this heavy. There's really no set rule to how much you're putting on. We're going to use a 10 mil squeegee that you're going to see here in just a moment that helps distribute to 10 mils of material. A lot of times on epoxies, people will put them down much thicker than that. And if you do, that's no problem. Just expand your cure rate a little bit as you put it down a little bit deeper. So there's our two colors. We have a nice rum and a nice Kona metallic that'll make a really pretty blend. Now Brad is going to use the 10 mil squeegee, and he's going to distribute this. These notch squeegees are terrific because, as you might be able to see on this tool, it does have a notch that allows a certain amount of material to stay behind as you swipe across. This allows you to get a really good even coat of material across your countertop. That way you're not heavy on one side and light on another. And what Brad's going to do now is use a 3/8 inch nap roller. This is a 4-inch nap roller that we're going to use. You can get them larger if you prefer it. This roller has been defuzzed. It's important to run this over packing tape because these have little hairs in them. Some of them are loose when it's new. That'll remove all the loose fuzz so it doesn't wind up in your finish. Go ahead and wet that pretty good in here before you want to wet these rollers in a big pool of this material to get it saturated. That way you don't have air or anything in that sealer as you're starting. Now he's just going to go through and give that a quick back roll, and you're going to see how the metallics start to move and do some interesting things. Really light-handed. You can see here that Brad's using such a light hand with this that the roller is hardly even rolling. It's almost pushing the material. That's fine. What you don't want to do is push too hard, because you'll push so much material off the countertop that you'll get so far down to your base that you'll lose some of the excitement of your metallics. The shimmer of the metallics is just beautiful. It really adds an interesting design element to any home. You could make this as modern or as rustic as you want, just depending on the color combinations you want to use. There are several color of metallics that we're offering at Direct Colors, and certainly more than that on the base colors, so you can get into a lot of combinations and just have a lot of fun with it. Once Brad finishes just kind of screeding this a little bit, or back rolling it to smooth out the squeegee tracks, he's going to come back and give it a couple more rolls, and that's going to pull those two colors of metallic together, make a little more interesting effects with it. And then we'll have one more step that really creates some interesting patterns. If you're working on a thicker countertop, 1.5" or a 2" countertop, what you're going to notice along your edges, that's always a popular question, is how am I going to get the metallics on the vertical lines or the vertical surfaces? And what you'll do, just like Brad's done here, you'll see the material runs pretty heavily off. You always want to put a drop cloth down. If you're working over cabinetry, protect your cabinetry. Keep this stuff from getting on it, because it's very difficult to get off, if not impossible. So what you'll have is a lot of runoff on those vertical edges. Once you finish your top, you can come back with this 4" roller and just run it along those vertical edges, and it'll clean up those drip lines. And just babysit the countertop a little bit while the material is hardening, and continue to roll over, picking up the drip lines off the bottom edge. Brad's going all in pretty much one steady motion. When you're doing this, there's no hard, fast rules as to how you're going to finish back rolling this out. You could take that roller and draw an S or create patterns or do anything you want with them in the epoxy. As long as you're within that pot life we spoke of, it will settle back out. And the more interesting directions you move your roller, the more it's going to create different effects with the metallics. And here in the finish, you can already see how the metallics are starting to move a little bit. These lines that you see are going to disperse as he continues to kind of move that roller across it. And then we're going to spritz it a little bit with a product that I'll get into more in a moment. And Brad, you might just kind of snake that thing around a little bit and kind of drag it and create some interesting looks. I don't think we want to go any thinner than what we've got right here. Yeah, just get crazy with this, okay? So here you can see, I mean, that's just an example. You can go as wild as you want in terms of how you're pushing these metallics around. What we just want you to see is how you can drag them and create different effects. The more we do touch this with the roller, the more we're going to get a blend of the two colors that we've put down. The less you touch it with the roller, obviously, the more you'll see a little more distinction between the two colors that have been put in. Okay. So now we've got the two colors down with the epoxy. What we're going to do now is a third little step. You can use denatured alcohol. And in this little jug, if you'll show them that, in this little sprayer, we have some denatured alcohol, and we've put a third metallic epoxy color in here. This is lager, which is a little bit of a brighter gold tone. It's really pretty. Whenever you hit or spritz this, you could do a fine line, or you could spritz a mist on it or anything like that. Typically you want to wait until you're longer into your pot life before you do that. We really don't have that time right now to wait. So what we're going to do is just show you what this does, what it looks like on surface. The denatured alcohol when it hits the epoxy with the metallics, it just causes the metallics to run. They start to disperse and they move in interesting ways. So Brad's going to spritz this a little bit so you can see. And you can see how the metallics are just starting to chase. You get a little bit of, looks like a little bit of a potting or a pot on a surface. That's going to settle out. Don't worry about that. It just takes the epoxy a second to adjust to the denatured alcohol, and it will resettle nice and smooth, no problem. Sometimes if it gets on a little bit heavy, you'll notice that you can get what they call these little fish eyes where the sealer starts to separate. Don't let that worry you too much. If you're in your pot life, you can get your little roller and go back and touch that up. But you can see what this does to the surface. Some of the lines that were there that were created from the back roll, they're dispersing out now. The pigments are moving. You got some really interesting tones and shapes and movement starting to develop on the surface. Just looks fantastic. Brad, we might get our roller and just kind of touch these areas and see if we can get those to fill in a little bit. Just kind of touch those areas, swirl them a little bit rather than doing the whole. Yeah. So I hope you've had some good questions. I hope this has triggered some thoughts in your mind about the capabilities of what you can do with this product in your home. It really is, again, a terrific way to update, modernize, make it look rustic, whatever you want to do with it, but an interesting way to put down some really pretty effects on your surface. We do carry all these products individually. You could purchase just metallics. You could purchase just the epoxy. Everything here that you've seen is available as a kit or as an individual purchase. Please take a moment to take a look at our website at directcolors.com. We have all these featured on our website. We've got a great website there with many decorative concrete products. You'll find these products under our concrete countertop supplies section. And as this settles out, these lines are going to disappear and you're going to have some very, very interesting surface patterns, great colors. Again, just check us out. If you have any questions, please give us a call. Our phone number is 405-275-6657. We offer technical support that will help walk you through just about any project you have. We're happy to help.